What's going on, everybody? My name is Eric.
My name's Zach.
My name is Tom.
My name's James.
And welcome back to the Team Betrade podcast. And before we get into everything today, I want to give sort of a heartfelt message out there. I know Texas and Florida are both still reeling from the hurricanes that recently hit them. I currently actually have family down in Texas that I've been trying to keep in contact with, make sure they've been okay. I've got a lot of friends down in Florida that have evacuated or have waited out the storm. Some of them have actually had a lot of damage done to their houses. So just want to quickly throw out there that we care. I love my friends, love my family, and I'm really hoping that everyone is recovering okay from this hurricane that have hit the United States here. So, friends and family haven't been the only thing impacted by these hurricanes. The sports world has been reeling really badly to the point where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins game had to be postponed until what should have been their bye weeks in Week 11. Now they're forced to have their bye Week 1. How do you guys think that's going to impact both of those teams?
Yeah, as far as the first week bye week, it's kind of actually really a hindrance to the two teams impacted. The Buccaneers and the Dolphins are definitely going to be feeling this later in the season. Because you look at an NFL schedule and you're like, okay, so even if we drop a few games in the beginning of the season, we have the bye week to look forward to, and then we can take 2 weeks before the next game, come back strong. But the Buccaneers and the Dolphins don't have that. If they start off the season bad, if they drop a few games in a row here, there's no break. There's no stop and figure stuff out. So it could either be really, really bad or it could be really, really good because they'll start the season off strong because they have more time to prepare for the first game.
So the Dolphins really got screwed on this altogether. They go Ravens, Raiders, Panthers, and then they should have had their bye. Now they play the Bucs, and they go Patriots, Broncos, Patriots, Bills, Chiefs, Bills. Not going to make the playoffs because they're not going to be able to rest any players. They're not going to be able to heal up. They're just screwed.
To bounce off of that, I did some research, and 3 teams before have had the situation. Back in 2001 and 1998 and 97, before the 2002 season, before the expansion, there's only 31 teams, so each team had to take a bye week through all 16 weeks of the season, and some teams got stuck with that first week bye. And the best record any of those 3 teams had was 8-8. The other 2 were 4-12 and 7-9. So it's not looking too good, and it's pretty unfortunate because both Tampa Bay and Miami are playoff contenders. And this is going to go either one of 2 ways. Either going to hit their stride about halfway through those 16 weeks, or they're going to start to wear down towards the end of it. So hopefully the former happens for them.
For me personally, I feel like it could be a hindrance, and it probably will. But the biggest thing I've seen that the bye week has caused an issue with is for teams that have gotten hot. And both Tampa Bay and Miami have a chance to get hot. They both have playoff rosters. If they can get hot and they can stay relatively healthy, playing 16 straight might not be the end of the world. But at the same time, if they have a lot of injuries, if they have a lot of key injuries, and like Tom said, if they start to slow up, they don't have that bye week to sort of interrupt the rhythm that has now been completely thrown off. Going into the Week 1 stories here, each of us have kind of pulled up a couple of them. The one thing about Week 1 that really kind of struck me as odd, and I don't know if this is an unexpected result or if this is a result of extremely poor opponents, but the Rams and Jaguars, not only did they both win this week, which I wasn't expecting by any means, but they won pretty big, especially the Rams. I had both of these teams picked as bottom feeders in their respective divisions. But how for you guys, do you guys think that this was the Rams and Jaguars outperforming expectations, or do you think this is a result of extremely poor play by their opponents?
I think the Jags' defense is very, very legit. They have a good defense. They've spent a lot of money over the past few years on their defensive pieces. The Rams need to spend some money on one of their defensive pieces in Aaron Donald. Hopefully they do, and they do the smart thing. But both teams have always had the defensive playmakers on there. They've never really had an offense competent enough to keep up with their defense. But hopefully Blake Bortles kind of figures it out because he's been pretty meandering over the past few years, and looks like Jared Goff kind of brushed off what he did last year. So hopefully that works well for him moving forward.
And for me, the Jaguars defense has Dante Fowler, Ramsey. They've built these players in the draft. So I feel like out of the two of them, I feel like the Jags could continue their success going forward. Maybe they could outperform my expectations. I really think the Rams was just a result of horrendous play by the Colts. I mean, 2 pick sixes, a fumble recovery for. I feel like the Rams was more of an aberration than the Jaguars are, but I think the Jaguars could be legit.
I think we got ourselves a tale of 2 upsets here. The Jaguars, I think, are actually were better. They came out, they played a lot better than their opponents, and like you and Zach both said, their defense is coming along. It's getting legit. They're still relatively young, but they got a lot of pieces in place. And their running game is there now. I don't know if it'll last. I don't know if it's they just got the better of the defense they played, or if Fournette's actually that good. But I'm really concerned about the passing offense, and eventually they're going to figure out Fournette. You can't just keep running the ball every single play, and eventually someone's going to figure out Fournette, especially if you don't pass the ball. If Bortles has like under 200 yards every single game, the Jaguars wouldn't go anywhere. But I think they definitely got a good start, strong start. They could really shock some people this year. And as far as the Colts not having Andrew Luck and their defense just not being good, I think that was more of the Colts being bad. The Rams, Jared Goff looked good. It looks like he shook off what happened last year where he didn't get the start immediately, and then he came in and tried to salvage the season. It didn't work out. But this year it looks like he's got full command of the offense. He's got new weapons. Todd Gurley looked like he shook off the sophomore slump. And the defense is still very solid. So the Rams are in a position to have a good season, but I think that was more of the Colts just not doing well.
So, Jacksonville, I think they're well balanced. If they keep the ball out of Burrow's hands, they'll do well. He needs to throw probably like 10, 20 passes a game. They have Irie and Fournette. They got some good receivers, even though Allen Robinson just went down. They're going to do well. Now, Rams, you got Sean McVay as their coach. They're looking great. That don't have a quarterback right now, but the Colts are still a contender every year. And they had Andrew Luck. Who knows, but Rams are actually legit too.
So, Zach, what kind of stories did you see from Week 1 that piqued your interest here?
Just being a Ravens fan, I have a lot of attention to detail when it comes to defense, and there was a lot of good defense in Week 1. Most notably, obviously the Ravens, the Seahawks, Green Bay had some good defense, Kansas City had some good defense, and then 2 of the teams that we talked about, the Jags and the Rams, had pretty good defense Week 1. Week 1, you could tell that the preseason doesn't really help these guys get into football shape and get ready for the first week. So it was nice to see good defense kind of take over for the first week. Maybe it'll stay for the next week, maybe it won't, but it's always good to see good defense.
So, how comfortable are you in the offense of the Ravens? Because I didn't actually get a chance to watch the game. I just, kind of followed the highlights when I saw them. But defense was outstanding, as expected. But did your offense show any signs of improvement?
Joe Flacco, the team social media people keep saying that he's not still dealing with his back injury that he got in the preseason. I don't think he is. He is showing a little bit of timidness when going to play and throw the ball down the field. He did get a touchdown on a slant route, mind you, for the game on Sunday. But as far as the offense goes, what I really liked about what the Ravens did is that they committed to running the football. They ran it 40-plus plays, got almost 200 yards of offense strictly from running the ball, and the offensive line really moved bodies around. That was a good Bengals defense out there. We only put up 20 points, but we also held their offense to 0, so it kind of makes the defense look like more of a blowout than it should be. But that was a good defense they were going up against, and they put up a lot of good yards on them.
Any of y'all got any comments as far as the Ravens game goes?
The defense looked extremely solid. It's a really, really good sign for the Ravens, who have always been a very defensive-minded team. If Flacco can avoid the ups and downs that he's had in previous years, there's no reason to me that the Ravens shouldn't be very competitive in this division. Maybe even compete for a division title.
They just let Jeremy Maclin do verticals all day long and Flacco throw a ball deep.
Probably will do good. Do him pretty good. Macklin's a really good weapon. Tom, what kind of stories did you see from Week 1?
It's not so much of a story. It's more my favorite part of NFL Week 1 is the overreactions. So I got 4 listed right here, and I'm gonna state them, and then you guys just go in order and tell me if it's an overreaction or not an overreaction, and maybe briefly why. So the first one I have, behind their revamped and much improved offensive line, the Vikings are poised to challenge for a division title.
I don't think that's an overreaction at all. I think the defense is solid, top 5, easy. Their offensive line has been an issue in years past. Also, I don't want to say hindrance, but having a guy like Adrian Peterson makes it so that he's so good that no matter who your quarterback is, unless he's like an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or something of the like, you want to give him the ball 20 to 30 times a game. That limits your quarterback's ability to get in a rhythm. And I think Sam Bradford was really able to get in a rhythm last night. And I think Sam Bradford, in terms of talent, is probably top 10 in the league, but he was never able to stay healthy. He's never able to get a team to buy into him long term. And he finally has one that wants to buy into him long term. Hell, he might even take Teddy Bridgewater's job and make him have to go find a job at the end of the season.
I think the biggest thing that the Vikings have going for them is Dalvin Cook is as expected, as advertised, and not only that, but they have 2 wide receivers. Where obviously Stephon Diggs was a highly touted receiver, but they have Laquan Treadwell. They haven't really used him very much, but he was, arguably one of the top 2 receivers coming out of last year's draft. So they haven't used Treadwell very much, and then they have this. Was Adam Thielen? Is that his name? I had never even heard of him before this season. I know he caught some passes last year, but they have all these unheralded rookies and unheralded really young receivers, and they're finally all coming together at about the same time, and Sad Bradford's able to utilize them. If they can keep this momentum and those receivers continue to kind of fly under the radar like they are, the Minnesota Vikings could absolutely be a threat this year.
Yeah, Vikings are looking good on all aspects of the ball, both sides coming together. They're definitely going to be a force in the NFC.
Okay. So that's not an overreaction from everybody?
Yeah, not an overreaction at all.
Yep.
All right, overreaction number 2. Andy Dalton has missed his window to bring his Bengals a championship.
Again, not an overreaction at all. I didn't think Andy Dalton ever had the opportunity to really... I didn't think he was ever a Super Bowl caliber quarterback to begin with. I thought he just had Super Bowl caliber talent around him. But that's not an overreaction. I think the Bengals are in trouble, and I don't think Andy Dalton is going to save them.
Yeah, I do think it's a little bit of an overreaction because Andy Dalton he's in like the same tier as Eli Manning and Joe Flacco and a little bit of Matt Ryan, where he needs weapons around him. And on a week like this past Sunday, he needed to carry his team, and he wasn't able to do it. He wasn't able to carry his team. His offensive line did not stop a soul, so that didn't really help him. But I think that's a little bit of an interaction, but I don't think they have a great chance this year of making a run. Well, they never made a run, but I don't think they have a good chance this year either.
Okay, I got one more overreaction from Week 1 for you guys, and that is Kareem Hunt will break the rookie rushing record easily.
What is the rookie rushing record right now, actually?
1808.
So, the rushing record, 1808, no. I don't think so. He's good, and I feel like he's definitely going to break 1,000, but 1808, breaking Eric Dickerson's record, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction. I don't think he's that good.
I think other running backs have a better chance at it, like Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is just an animal when he catches the ball. He's just always pushing for yards. It's kind of ironic that he dapped up Adrian Peterson at the end of the game last night, because that's probably the best comparison we have as far as who he compares to in the modern NFL. He's like an Adrian Peterson that can catch the ball in the backfield. Really, I don't think Kareem Hunt has a chance at rookie record. So, not an overreaction. Sorry.
I think it's an overreaction. Kareem Hunt's just got to catch the ball more times than not with Alex Smith at the helm. Runs unless that's their game plan. And Kansas City is more about throwing in plays with speed. So, overreaction.
Yeah, I feel like, to add on to what I said earlier, rookie rushing record, probably not.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Easy for me to say. Rookie rushing record, probably not. But overall purpose yards, it's a possibility because, like James said, he's going to catch the ball more than he's going to run it. I think he's going to be a very good hybrid back. And with Alex Smith throwing the ball and Captain Checkdown, I think he could definitely set the all-purpose rookie record.
All right. Well, that's all the overreactions I have for Week 1.
All right, James. So I'm hoping you're going to talk about your Patriots, buddy, but I'm sure you're not going to.
Oh, it's the fourth overreaction. Tom forgot to mention it. You guys think the season's over for him already? I'm saying no.
The Patriots? No, season's definitely not over for the Patriots, but...
Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and there's no overreacting. Now and then, it's okay. Everybody hates us, it's nice. But you still got Tom Brady. He still has to make chemistry with his receivers. Make chemistry with his running backs, with his tight ends. Wayne Allen's new. Cooks is new. It's all about chemistry. And on the defensive side of the ball, we need some DNs.
Yeah, y'all have no rush.
We have no rush. Exactly.
Yeah, I think the main issue with the Patriots is the fact they couldn't pressure Alex Smith. Alex Smith is becoming a lot like Sam Bradford, where you have to pressure him to get him to perform badly, but if you don't get any pressure on him, if he takes his time, he can make you pay. And he certainly made the Patriots pay on opening night there. But I think the Patriots are fine. I mean, you still have Tom Brady. They have a really good offense still, even with Edelman being out. So, to be honest, I think the Patriots are fine. But it was slightly disconcerting. The defense was just not there.
I think the reason why Kansas City matched up so well against the Patriots, the one deficiency that the Patriots have is tight man defense, and none of the receivers that they had out there on the field could get separation. The only person who's capable of it is Gronk, and Gronk ain't going to be able to do it for a whole game. He's just not capable of that. He's not physically able to do that for a whole game. No tight end is. That's really what it came down to. Kansas City just mauled the Patriots receivers one-on-one. I think Brandon Cook had one big play to the whole game, and that's all. So, really it.
Last note on that, I feel like the Patriots in general, especially Brady, is in a position that they've never been in before, and that's going to make this season interesting. I don't think it's a lost season. They're going to win the division. There's no one in the division that can beat them. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to go to the AFC Championship game. I can guarantee you that almost. But they're definitely in a situation they haven't been in past years, especially recent seasons. So I can see some early struggles, but once the season starts to get to the middle and the end of the season, Brady and Belichick are going to be Brady and Belichick, and that's just it. They're in a different situation. The receivers aren't highly touted receivers. He doesn't have that one main guy he can rely on, like he had in Edelman and past Super Bowl victories, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for the Patriots when it's all said and done. So, any other Week 1 stories that you guys know of that y'all want to talk about before we get into some listener questions?
What about that Tony Romo on broadcasting?
That was actually really cool.
I want him and Pat McAfee as my commentators for every game. Those two should be a duo. Jim Nantz could go with somebody else, but those two will make a killer broadcast group.
I mean, McAfee just talked about the punting the entire time, but instead Tony Romo dominate the commentary.
Exactly.
Then McAfee just chimes in with a one-liner every now and again.
That's basically what happened last time with Rex Ryan.
Well, Tony, where'd you learn how to figure out what that play was? Well, Jim, I had 14 years of NFL football experience.
Jim Nance here.
That's exactly how the broadcast is going to go, though.
So, a couple listeners sent us in some questions they wanted to hear us answer, hear us talk about, and really good ones here. Ryan sent me a message asking, as far as the Colts go, why Scott Tolzien? Why did they settle with him? With all the QBs that are currently still on the market, why did the Colts insist on using him? And do you think his performance will lead them to look at RG3 or Colin Kaepernick? Do they go with Jacoby Brissett, who they picked up from the Patriots?
Jacoby Brissett has a lot of potential. Scott Tolzien, I think they're just sticking with because they'd rather keep the potential waiting rather than rush him into a situation he's not ready for. I think they'd much rather have Jacoby Brissett be the backup to Andrew Luck when Andrew Luck comes back rather than have Jacoby Brissett get thrust into a situation that he's not exactly ready for.
So do you think they'll make a move for either RG3 or Kaepernick?
No, RG3 is kind of, if you pick him up, you're kind of just kicking the tires. And Kaepernick is easily better than both those guys, but you don't want to bring Kaepernick on for all the off-the-field issues and just you don't want your backup quarterback to get more questions than your starting quarterback each week. That's just not a situation any NFL team, any professional team for that matter, wants to be in.
True. So, the second part to his question. Do you think that it's a possibility that the Colts are tanking out of the gate starting at week 1? Luck's not expected to be back until sometime in mid to late October. By then, depending on how the rest of that division goes, they could be out of the race for the playoffs at that point. The team is filled with veterans. I didn't think they were going to compete from the beginning. Are they tanking to try to get a top draft pick and then trade their veterans for additional draft picks? Or what do you think their strategy is going into the season?
I think that's a blatant overreaction to what happened week 1. I don't think for even a second that they're tanking the season. I think I'm gonna have to agree with Zach. They started Scott Tolzien because they thought he could hold it down. Brissett's just not ready for starting in the NFL yet, especially against a defense like the or front seven like the Rams have. So yeah, I don't think it's a lot harder to tank in the NFL than it is in like the NBA and stuff because there's a lot fewer games. So it's a lot more obvious when a team does tank. So I really don't think the Colts are trying to tank for picks or anything like that. I think they're just waiting out until Luck gets back. They're hoping either Tolzien, or if Tolzien really doesn't work out, or if he has another bad game like that, maybe they'll put in Brissett, hoping that he can hold down the fort until their leader gets back, and hopefully they can remain competitive and Luck can make some noise in the back half of the season for them.
I don't think the Colts are tanking per se. They just don't have Luck. It's Brissett because he adds a new dynamic. The defense has to worry about the run, worry about the scramble.
You're right. It is hard to win without any Luck.
Nice one.
The Colts have tons of players. They drafted 7 defensive players this year. The defensive side, they're all young. They just got to be put in their place and learn their role. They have a bunch of winnable games like Browns, Bengals, Jags.
I don't know. The Jags might be winnable. So, the second question that was sent in from listeners, from my friend David. He's a Steelers fan, and he wants to know, should the Steelers be nervous that they only beat the Browns by 3? Or is this more of the Browns actually showing signs of improvement?
I'm not going to say the Browns are a good team. I'm saying that they definitely showed improvement. They're not the Browns from the last couple seasons where you could just write them off as a free win. I think they're going to be relatively competitive this year. Might even get more than 6 wins. Kaiser needs to stay healthy. He's and he needs to make a little bit less mistakes. But other than that, I mean, they got building blocks everywhere. It's time they came together, and it looks like, at least for now, they're starting to come together. I mean, the Steelers are a pretty tough out for Week 1 for the Browns. But the fact that they only lost by 3 actually should be looked at as a good thing if you're a Browns fan. If they beat the Steelers, we would all be talking about how bad the Steelers are. But I really do think the Browns are a lot better than they were last year. And Kaiser might be a quarterback of the future for them. We'll have to see how it pans out this year.
Go ahead, James.
Well, the Browns last game of the season, they forced Pittsburgh to go overtime with Roethlisberger in the game. They forced them to go overtime. The Browns are emerging. They're young talent. They got to put the pieces together. Kaiser's going to lead them. I think they're a good team to watch in the future.
I think there's a false narrative around the Steelers that they are Super Bowl contenders when they can't even beat the Patriots one time in the playoffs. I don't think Big Ben has ever beat the Patriots in the playoffs, as a matter of fact. The whole Browns and Steelers thing, I think, like Tom said, the Browns, they're not the team of old 3 or 4 years ago that you could just beat up on every year. And they'd go 2-14 and they'd somehow squeak out 2 wins against some of their peers at their level in the NFL. And I also think it's a combination of the Steelers not having even just a mediocre defense. Their defense is subpar. I've been a Ravens fan for quite a bit, and ever since about 3 years ago, everything before that, the Steelers had a great defense. Ever since Polamalu retired, man, their defense just, you can't depend on it. It's very hard to be a fan of the NFL when you can't trust in your defense to stop somebody. Because if you can't stop somebody, then you got a shootout. It's like watching college football, where you just hope your team is the last one to have the ball. And the Steelers happened to do that with Antonio Brown making an amazing catch with a couple minutes to go and keeping that drive alive for the Steelers, and they could run the clock out on the Browns.
For me, you know, the Steelers have the big 3, and that big 3 is going to carry them to a lot of games, and it's just, I think this was more the Steelers trying to work out some kinks. Maybe they benefited from playing the Browns and having the Browns as their tune-up game. If they played anyone else that was even the slightest bit better, maybe they probably would have lost this first game. I feel like it's a bit of an overreaction to say that the Browns are going to win 6 games, but I do believe they could win 3 or 4 and not by luck actually win those games. Them winning 6 games is still a very far-fetched conclusion, but Kaiser is going to have a lot of rookie mistakes. I don't think their offense is anywhere near good enough, but their defense, they've been piecing it together. A lot of those pieces might finally start emerging, and if those pieces start emerging, then maybe they can lean on their defense, which is basically what that entire division used to do anyway. So, who's to say? Kaiser might be the next Flacco, and all of a sudden the Browns are relevant in a couple years, but it's not going to be this season. And I don't think the Steelers should be freaking out but so much. The third question that was presented to me from fans was from a gentleman named Chris. Which rookie running back has the potential to have the biggest impact on their respective team this season? Not necessarily statistically, but as far as the role they play, the impact they have on the game, each individual game, the season as a whole. Which rookie running back do you think will have the biggest impact on their team this season?
I'm not going to go and try to pick one. I think this rookie class of running backs, man, they have the potential to be one of the best skill position classes over the past 5-6 years. That I think they could challenge that 2014 wide receiver class with Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, all those guys, Sammy Watkins. You have 5 guys who are the clear-cut stars on their team. Well, Mixon is kind of challenging in Cincinnati, but he'll take over the starting duties before the end of the year. But you have Leonard Fournette, just a pure beast in college. You have Christian McCaffrey, probably one of the best white running backs I've ever seen. He's just uber athletic, crazy athletic, comes from a long line of family athletes. You have Dalvin Cook, who's just Mr. All-World, versatile. He can catch it. He can run it. He can do the one cut. He can do the jump cut. He can do side to side. He can do north south. And then you have Kareem Hunt, who just lit up the Patriots defense on Thursday night. I think those 5 guys right there, those 5 starters, man, they're going to do some things this year that we have not seen from rookie running backs in a while because of just the lack of need for rookie or just any running backs in general in the NFL. And 4 of those 5 guys can catch the ball in the backfield and do something with it, and it's very refreshing to see in the NFL.
As far as impact on their teams this season, immediate impact, I'm actually I can't decide between Fournette and Dalvin Cook. I'm gonna probably lean towards Dalvin Cook having the most impact on his team this year, and that's because he's replacing big shoes. He's got big shoes to fill. Adrian Peterson was such a mainstay on that roster, and to come in as a rookie and perform like he did against the team that Adrian Peterson went to, just completely outclassing him, even though Adrian Peterson really didn't get as many carries as he probably should have, but that's another topic. But I think the Vikings need a guy like Dalvin Cook. They need a guy like Adrian Peterson, especially when you have a quarterback like Sam Bradford. Kind of back the linebackers off, not as many blitzes, make Sam Bradford. It all comes back to making Sam Bradford comfortable in the pocket, and having Dalvin Cook being able to tear off 5, 7, 8-yard gains every time he touches the ball is going to be a huge advantage for that offense. As far as Leonard Fournette goes, I'm more worried about the fact that Blake Bortles isn't going to back him up. Leonard Fournette himself is going to perform fantastically this year. But time will tell if they just become a one-dimensional team. And obviously that's never good. But if Blake Bortles just performs at an average level and doesn't shoot his team in the foot, I think Leonard Fournette could also have a gigantic impact on his team, because it's just when you can gain 5 yards every single play just by handing it off to someone, you're gonna score points. It's just can Bortles not throw a game-changing interception and lose the Jaguars the entire game? But Fournette and Dalvin Cook are probably my top 2, with Dalvin Cook barely edging out Fournette as far as impact goes.
I have the same 2, but the opposite lean. I'm leaning towards Lamar Fournette. And the reason I do is because, like you said, Blake Bortles can and probably will cost the Jaguars some games. If their defense plays like they played before, then the best way to win is to just keep the ball out of Blake Bortles' hands. Hand the ball off to Fournette. Feed him. Feed Chris Ivory. But Leonard Fournette has the ability to completely take over a game. Completely help the offensive line control the line of scrimmage. And like you said, if they can gain 4 or 5 yards a carry, then Blake Bortles doesn't have to do a whole lot. He can check down. What did he have? I think he had like 9 or 10 completions, and they won the game by multiple scores, by almost 3 scores. So, just keep the ball out of his hands. Keep the ball in Fournette's hands. The Dalvin Cook is going to be a force, but the Minnesota Vikings are still led by Sam Bradford in that offensive line and that defense. Leonard Fournette has a much bigger impact on the Jaguars than I feel like Dalvin Cook would have. You can put Jerick McKinnon in Dalvin Cook's shoes, and it's going to be a significant decline, but not to a point where Minnesota Vikings won't be competing for a playoff spot. Dalvin Cook puts them in the almost surefire playoff spot. But you take Leonard Fournette out of Jacksonville, and I don't think they win that game last week.
I mean, Jerick McKinnon is more of the specialist on that team. I don't think he'll be like nearly as good in like a purely running role, but he's a very good specialist. He's like in the McCaffrey, Kareem Hunt, Chris Thompson kind of role.
James, what do you think?
I think Leonard Fournette is going to have a bigger impact on his team. I watched the game. The time he got the ball, he bowled over a defender, got 4 to 5 yards. You can't stop him. By the time he gets speed, you don't want to get in his way. Bounce off him or have a hard tackle. By the end of the game, you really don't want Fournette to have that ball. Cook's just got to outrun you. Fournette's got to pound it down your throat like Elliott did last year. The Cowboys.
Alrighty. So, shifting sports here a little bit. going to the good old college football. I don't think we've actually talked about college football much at all in this podcast. So, the Heisman watch is starting to take full effect. 2 weeks are down. I currently have the top 8 people as far as ESPN experts, in quotation marks, experts, who they pick, who they have as their top 8. Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, both of them quarterbacks from Oklahoma and Louisville, respectively. Josh Rosen, quarterback from UCLA. Saquon Barkley, a running back from Penn State. Sam Darnold, quarterback, USC. Mason Rudolph, quarterback, Oklahoma State. Shea Patterson, quarterback, Ole Miss. And the only defensive player in the top 8 is Ed Oliver, defensive tackle from Houston. Out of those top 8, who do you think has made the biggest case for themselves so far in these 2 weeks?
I think it's a clear-cut 2-horse race at this point. It's Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is just building upon the years that he spent in Oklahoma, playing well, but never this caliber. And Lamar Jackson is just he is the byproduct of what he has seen and grown up with in college football, and he has the arm talent of like Aaron Rodgers, but he has the mobility of Russell Wilson. It's just fun to watch that guy, man. I hope an NFL team will take a chance on him and begin to build an offense around him, because he's honestly more fun to watch than Michael Vick was, and that's insane to say and insane to think, but he is that caliber of just excitement in the sport of football.
I mean, I gotta go agree with Zach on this one. I really think Lamar Jackson has to be the front runner for the Heisman right now. Baker Mayfield is very good, and he means a lot to that Oklahoma team. But I don't think there's a player that means more to his team than Lamar Jackson means to the Louisville Cardinals. Without Lamar Jackson, that team would be nothing. They give up a lot of points per game, but Lamar Jackson is always there just to keep them right in the game. I mean, he's super fun to watch. He means so much to his team, and he puts up insane numbers. So I gotta say Lamar Jackson's got to be the front runner right now, especially with some of the higher quarterbacks ranked kind of struggling in week 1, like Darnold and the guy from I forget his name, the guy from Wyoming that was like pegged as like one of the top. I think Allen was his last name.
Mm-hmm.
So
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. He was pegged as like one of the top quarterbacks in next year's draft, and he did not look as like a top ranked quarterback. But Lamar Jackson looked like he picked up right where he left off. So, and I would love to see the story of him becoming a repeat Heisman winner. I think that would be really cool to see. He definitely deserves it the way he's playing right now.
Just to add to what you were saying, reiterate it, as how much Lamar Jackson means in Louisville. Look at the team that he put together and took as far as he did last year. Would they have 1 loss? He was within 1 first down of beating the eventual national champions. That is just an insane thought. Just think how close he got to beating the national champions.
Yeah, I think Lamar Jackson is a clear favorite in this race so far. The real test is going to be this weekend against Clemson. That one's going to be exciting to watch. Lamar Jackson's looking really good with his team. It's going to be a rematch, and it's going to be beautiful. It's looking pretty good. He went into Ohio State and proved 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, then turned the ball over. Playing that flag, it was beautiful.
I agree with y'all. Lamar Jackson's by far the best athlete out of this whole group, and he makes the most flashiest plays. And as we've seen in the last recent years, the flashier plays, the best watched TV, if you will, has usually won the Heisman. I do think Baker Mayfield has the potential to be a top-tier quarterback in the NFL. A couple other quarterbacks that we haven't really talked about. Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen are both really high on the ladder on Mel Kiper's draft board. But again, they don't make the flashy plays. So I don't think they have a chance. Oh, one name we haven't really mentioned at all, Saquon Barkley, the running back for Penn State. I mean, Penn State is ranked in the top 4, and I can't tell you who their quarterback is. But I know who Saquon Barkley is. So, if he can continue to lead Penn State and Penn State continues to win games by the amount they're winning, you might have to start including him in the race. The back end of this, Ed Oliver, defense doesn't win Heisman's, not anymore anyway. Mason Rudolph, Shea Patterson, I'll be honest, I hadn't even heard their names until I actually saw this list. So I don't really have much of a comment on those two. But the way the field is currently set up, Lamar Jackson, unless he has a fall off at the second half of the season, I think Lamar Jackson will probably win. This, like you said, this week is going to be the big determining factor. If they manage to knock off Clemson, Lamar Jackson might as well go ahead and write his name on that trophy again. If he loses, he's going to have to continue to compete and fight for it. So moving on to the final topic that we have, unless anyone has any added on there. The final topic for this evening's podcast, going to baseball here. September is about mid-September now, so the playoff races are coming to a close. Playoff baseball is starting to get in the air, and a lot of the playoff teams are starting to take shape. The Nationals are the only team that's currently clinched. Clinched the East the other day. Cleveland Indians are probably going to be the next ones. Dodgers have completely faded out of existence, but the big races to watch right now, the second AL wild card, and another race that I'll get to in a second, the NL Central. So sticking with the American League first, the New York Yankees currently have a 4-game lead on the first wild card. They pretty much had that one sealed. The Minnesota Twins currently have the second wild card spot. The Angels sit a game back. Texas is 2 games back. Kansas City is 2.5. Baltimore was 3.5 before we blew that game to the Toronto Blue Jays. Now we sit 4. And Seattle, I believe, also lost, so I think they're now 4. Any team that's more than 3 games back probably isn't winning. It probably doesn't have a chance this late in September. So Minnesota, Angels, Texas, Royals. Which one of those 4 teams do you think has the best chance of taking that second wildcard spot currently right now? For the record, the Angels and Texas currently have 3 games left to play against each other. So keep that in mind.
All right. So as far as the American League race, I think you said it right when you said the Yankees are pretty much a lock right there. It's the second wildcard spot in the AL that's kind of up in the air right now, really. The fact that the Angels and the Rangers do play each other, they're going to have to. One of those teams is going to come out on top of that series. But the Twins just got finished blowing out the Padres at home, 16-0.
Well, that's not very hard to do.
It's still a professional baseball team.
Yeah, true.
That's still a win. So I don't know. I think it's either the Twins or the Angels. I don't think the Rangers will have a well, they have a chance obviously, but I don't think they're going to win that series against the Angels. I think the Angels will win that series.
They'd have to sweep the Angels in order for me to think that they get it.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening. But if the Twins keep winning, they have a relatively easy schedule going on right now. But so if they can stay consistent and stay winning, I think you're looking at a Yankees-Twins, and that would be huge for the Twins, who haven't really been relevant for a very long time. So I would like to see the Twins make the playoffs.
It'd be nice.
As far as the NL, thank you, by the way, for mentioning my Nationals clinched. Super happy about that. Super excited for this roster, but that's not the topic. The topic is the 2 wildcard teams. The Diamondbacks, they're so good at baseball.
It's so good.
They're playing really good right now. I think JJ Martinez is just playing out of his mind. That guy is insane. So the Diamondbacks are a lock right now. I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, they've got a 4-game lead on Colorado, and Colorado has a 3.5-game lead on St. Louis. So that puts Arizona at like 7.5, with only 17, 18 games left to go. Yeah, they've got that.
I think this is more fleshed out than the AL for sure. I think unless the Rockies lose their next like 4 games and the Cardinals win the next 4 games, I don't see the Rockies dropping that many though. So I'm gonna go with the Rockies and the Diamondbacks in the wild card there, and that's gonna be a really fun wild card matchup to watch.
So this whole podcast has been the overreaction podcast. So I'm going to overreact here as well. I think the Diamondbacks, the Rockies have already clinched, and here's why. St. Louis is the team right behind them, 3.5 games. Looking over at the NL Central, which is why I mentioned this, the Cubs are currently leading it. St. Louis is only 2 games behind the Cubs, and Milwaukee is only 2.5 games behind the Cubs. So St. Louis and Milwaukee have a better chance at taking the NL Central than they do the wild card. It gets better. St. Louis currently has 7 games left against the Cubs. If they win 5 out of those 7, and they go even the rest of the way, they win the Central.
Oh man, I love this time of year.
Milwaukee currently has 4 games left against the Cubs themselves, and Milwaukee and St. Louis currently have 2 games left against each other, and that ends the season as a 2-game series against Milwaukee and St. Louis. So the NL Central plays each other so much. I don't think they have a chance to win the wild card. I don't think they have a chance to take the wild card from Arizona or Colorado, even though Arizona and Colorado still play each other 3 times. They play the NL Central plays itself so much, they're going to cannibalize each other. And I don't think anyone from the NL Central makes the playoffs outside of winning that division, but that division is completely wide open, and it's really the only division I can see that's still wide open.
Yeah, I wanted to say that the Cubs obviously they got a 3-game set with St. Louis, a 4-game set with Milwaukee, and a 4-game set with St. Louis to kind of near the end of the season there. They've done pretty well against St. Louis this year. So I want to say that they don't sweep those series, but I think they win a majority of those games against the Cardinals. I honestly think the Cubs probably have this division almost in the bag, not to jinx them or anything. Milwaukee, I think, is the team you got to look at here. They got a lot of talent on that team, and they're poised to make a run. As you said, they have a lot of games coming up against their division. They got that 4-game set against the Cubs. If they somehow manage to sweep that series, I think the Cubs are in trouble. But like you said, this is why I love this time of year. You never know what's going to happen down the stretch here, especially when a division gets close like this.
I'm just sad. I feel like there's 17 games left, and I've already put up my Baltimore jersey. I've already hung it up. Think we're done. Think tonight took us out.
It's like every division is still like no one's clinched yet besides the Nationals right now. So everything's up in the air until those magic numbers start coming down. So.
Yep.
We'll have to see. And obviously Cleveland's going to probably win that division. The Twins will have an easier time securing that wild card than catching the Indians, who are just probably the hottest team in baseball right now.
Did they win 20? Did they win 20 in a row?
Yeah.
They won 20? Yep. Wow. That's insane.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? To kind of end the season. And the Cubs are winning right now, too. So, I mean, I do think the Cubs will end up closing out that division, but I think the Brewers and the Cardinals make it interesting with so many divisional games down the stretch. It's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. So, that just about does it for all the topics that I had picked out today. Anyone got any closing remarks before we sign off here?
We got some primetime picks.
Oh, yeah, primetime picks. That's right, primetime picks. Primetime picks. That's right.
Before we get to that, I have just a little thought out there for people that enjoy soccer and U.S. soccer especially. I highly recommend you go watch Alexi Lawless's rant on the U.S. national team and basically the expectations of the national team at this point, because this is U.S. men's national team soccer and just U.S. soccer in general. This is, for the guys' side, this is the golden generation, and they need to take advantage of it right now at this moment. Tim Howard, Clint Dempsey, Michael Bradley, all those guys, they really need to take advantage of it, and you should definitely go watch his brief couple-minute speech on it. He made some great points.
James, closing thoughts? Before we do the picks?
Let's go Patriots.
I got a closing thought here on the Redskins. Here, I'll homer for a bit here. you know, a lot of Redskin fans I see on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that are freaking out, thinking our season's over. When it comes right down to it, man, Redskins don't win week ones. We haven't won a week one since we hired Jay Gruden as a coach. I wasn't expecting us to win. It sucks that we lost to the Eagles, but it's not that big a deal. You know, I'm not worried about it. Kirk Cousins, the defense looked better. Offense will come together eventually, but I mean, what's the worst case scenario? We fail out, we get a low draft pick, and we draft either Baker Mayfield, or we decide to take RG3, the second coming, and Lamar Jackson. I'm not worried about this season. I didn't have high expectations, so it's not that big a deal for me.
I'm not going to say anything.
All right, so we decided that we're gonna. I think I took Tom's. So what we just talked about before was we were gonna start doing a couple weeks here where we're gonna pick the primetime games for the following week. Do we want to do just the next week, or do we want to do the next 2 weeks, since we only do a podcast every 2 weeks?
Let's go ahead and do the next 2 weeks.
Alrighty. This Thursday night we have the Texans at the Bengals. Who do y'all got?
I got the Bengals. Bengals at home. They do well in primetime football, just not in the postseason.
I'm going to go with the Texans. Stop screwing around and start Deshaun Watson.
They already have confirmed.
All right, good. You're good. Then I think they'll win. It's going to be Deshaun Watson night. He needs to show up and perform. I think he does. I think the Bengals fall.
I got the Texans. Bengals can't beat a top defense.
If the Texans protect Watson by a mile, since he sucks.
That's James' excuse for everything. Yeah, the team sucks. They lose. Alrighty. Sunday night. Oh, this is a good one. Whew, this is going to be a tough one. Sunday night football. Green Bay Packers at Atlanta Falcons. Who y'all got?
I got to go with Matty Ice at home. Aaron Rodgers is an animal at home, but he's so on the road. I got to figure that Matt Ryan can neutralize whatever effect that Aaron Rodgers has at home when he's away from home.
I'm going to go with Green Bay on this one. Aaron Rodgers is a primetime performer. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a really good game, but I think Green Bay edges them out.
I say it's going to be Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers looked deadly, spraying the ball out. Cheaters. Game time to Montgomery. And their defense looked good. Matty Ice better watch out. Opening a new stadium, about take the first L.
I actually agree with Zach here. I got the Falcons at home. Just not anything, not a crack against Green Bay. It's just the Falcons. The Falcons are the best team in the NFC. Their defense is getting better. Bears gave him a scare, but it's Matty Ice at home. Julio Jones and him have got to get connected. You can't expect Hooper to carry the offense again, but Julio Jones is going to get going. I got to go with Matty Ice. Monday Night Football, we have the Lions at the Giants. Who y'all got?
Giants by 2 scores.
I got the Lions over the Giants, actually. I think some problems that they had in offense bleed into this week, and Stafford looked like a man on a mission after that first interception.
Is that Odell over there? Nope. Okay, they're not going to probably start him again. So let's go Lions.
Yeah, if Odell Beckham starts, I think the Giants' offense picks itself back up. But if Odell Beckham is out again, and they can't win with just Odell Beckham Jr. Not the way that the Detroit Lions played against the Cardinals. Cardinals have have an excellent defense. The Giants have an even better defense. They have a top 5 defense easily. But I think Matt Stafford is making a case. He's trying to carry the Detroit Lions to the playoffs, not back into the playoffs like they did last year. I think the Lions are going to be a real big threat, and I think the Lions win that game. All right, so week 3. It's going to be kind of tough for us to pick because we only have 1 week to go off of, but this first pick is pretty easy. Thursday Night Football, September 21st, we have the Rams at the 49ers, and if we all don't have unanimous picks here, there's something wrong.
I got Rams 12-9.
I'll take the Rams by a field goal here.
Man, that's Sean McVay. 2 touchdowns. Let's go, Rams.
Yeah, I got the Rams by a country mile. The 49ers are the worst team in the NFL. No offense, 49ers fans, but let's be honest, you all know that too.
You just saved the Colts fans some.
So it looks like on here the Sunday night game for week 3 has not been. Oh, there. Oh, good God. That's why it shows up at my top, because it's Oakland at the Redskins. Oh, why are we on Sunday night football?
Oh, baby.
Oh, boy. Who y'all got? Because I know it ain't sure us.
When Zach does his homework. I'll do Oakland by a touchdown. They've been doing just uncharacteristically well for a West Coast team on the East Coast. They've just been dominating all the 1 o'clock games, and I think they'll carry it on for a Sunday night game.
Oakland by 3 scores.
Yeah, if not bigger margin. I'll give us a little bit of credit. I think our defense is a little bit better than we're giving them credit for. But, yeah, Oakland's going 13-3, and we're definitely going to be one of them 13.
I got Washington by 2.
Thank you, James. Thank you, James. Yeah, we suck at home, but thanks. All right, and finally, the Monday night game. Oh, Dallas Cowboys at the Cardinals. Who you got?
Cowboys in a thriller.
I agree. I think Cowboys is going to be extremely close, though. A lot closer than Cowboys fans maybe think it's going to be.
They don't got David Johnson. I say Dallas by 14.
Yeah, if Ezekiel Elliott was suspended and the Cardinals had Johnson, I think the Cardinals win this game pretty easily. But no Johnson, Elliott playing, gotta be Dallas. Well, that is the 2 scores. But that is it for this podcast, guys. We hope y'all enjoyed listening to us. I feel like we were a little bit all over the place this time, but we're getting better.
Lots of laughs.
Y'all have a great night.
Peace.
Dun, 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 dun.